The moment someone steps in to shield a gentle heart, something shifts in the air around them. Not loudly, not dramatically. Something quiet, something almost invisible at first. It starts with a small choice that feels ordinary, almost forgettable. Maybe it happened in a room full of tension, where a soft-spoken person was cornered by voices sharper than knives. Maybe it unfolded in a group where kindness was treated like a weakness. A single act in that moment becomes a seed. Protection rooted in instinct carries a different kind of weight. It is not heroic. It is not loud. It is clean, simple, and sincere. And the world never forgets sincerity, even long after the moment has faded. In places where cruelty travels fast, compassion travels deeper. That choice ends up echoing longer than expected, reaching places the protector never intended to touch. Stories passed quietly often grow stronger than the ones retold loudly. A kind soul speaks highly of the person who stood with them, not out of strategy, but out of gratitude. That gratitude moves like ripples across a still lake. It touches friends, then strangers, then people far removed from the original moment. The protector doesn't chase reputation. They continue living unaware that each person who witnessed that small act carries the memory forward. And when memories travel, they gain power. Power formed by truth rather than noise. Slowly, a circle of respect forms around the protector without their knowledge. Respect founded not on intimidation, but on integrity. The type of integrity people look for in a world where loyalty is rare and courage is often delayed. Toxic environments expose character in ways comfort never could. In a setting where selfishness is normal and kindness is punished, the one who steps in stands out immediately. People may pretend not to notice in the moment. Some may avoid acknowledging it out of fear. But minds remember the smallest details when fairness appears in unfair places. Even rivals feel the shift. Even those who once judged begin to watch more closely. That single moment becomes a reference point, a standard, a whisper that spreads through the environment. And suddenly, the person who acted from instinct becomes someone others measure themselves against. They become the example people talk about in private conversations, long after the situation ends. Kindness given freely returns in ways no one expects. Sometimes the person protected moves on with their life, but the impact lingers behind them like a living echo. They share stories in new cities, new jobs, new friend circles. Stories travel faster than people believe, and over time, those stories build something large and unseen. A legacy forms. A legacy made of respect, loyalty, and admiration. Others who never met the protector start to admire them simply because kindness ripples across multiple lives. It becomes a chain reaction of gratitude. That gratitude gathers into something that resembles allegiance. Quiet allegiance built not by power plays, but by the memory of fairness in a cruel moment. When groups notice someone standing for what is right, even alone, a strange shift begins. People who lacked courage begin to borrow strength from that example. They realize they could have acted too but didn't. Instead of resenting the protector, many begin honoring them silently. They start adjusting their own behavior. They avoid crossing lines they once ignored. They stand a little taller when facing unfairness. The influence expands without effort. A person who defended one gentle soul unknowingly influences many more. That influence becomes a torch others choose to carry. Sometimes the ones who benefited from the protector's action feel a deep urge to repay that moment, even if no repayment was requested. They begin defending the protector's name in rooms the protector never enters. They correct lies before they spread. They shut down gossip before it poisons the air. They explain the protector's intentions when others twist the narrative. Loyalty earned through sincerity carries an intensity that fear-based loyalty can never match. It becomes something stronger than friendship and deeper than obligation. It becomes devotion built from gratitude. Over time, people who heard the story second or third hand start forming their own perception. They picture someone steady, someone brave, someone trustworthy. They may never have met the protector, but admiration doesn't require introduction. It requires truth, and truth travels well. The protector becomes a quiet symbol, someone spoken about with respect in places they have never visited. Sometimes, influence grows more powerfully in the minds of strangers than in the presence of familiar faces. A legacy made of integrity travels farther than any reputation built on noise. Even years later, the effect continues. The person who once needed protection becomes stronger. They grow, they rise, they evolve. And every milestone they reach carries a silent gratitude for the one who stood with them. That gratitude shapes their decisions. It sharpens their boundaries. It builds their confidence. They tell their own children or close friends about the moment someone believed in them when no one else did. And those stories shape how the next generation moves through the world. A single act becomes a compass for people the protector will never meet. There is a psychology behind this ripple. Humans are wired to remember who brought safety into unsafe places. In moments of fear, the face that brought calm becomes unforgettable. When kindness is rare, it becomes sacred. People align themselves with those who carry such energy. They respect them instinctively. They defend them without hesitation. And eventually, admiration grows into something almost ceremonial. Oaths form not through force, but through respect. Allegiance born from appreciation, not pressure. The protector becomes a figure others speak about with pride, almost reverence. Power built through compassion outlasts any influence that comes from fear or ego, because compassion shapes memory in a way dominance never can. In any toxic environment, the people who tried to control others through pressure always believed they held the upper hand. Their voices were loud, their presence heavy, their tactics sharp. But dominance fades quickly once circumstances change. The moment their control weakens, their influence disappears like smoke. In contrast, someone who treated others with respect, even in a harsh place, becomes unforgettable. The memory of their fairness returns when people reflect on what truly mattered. Compassion plants itself deep in the mind of anyone who witnessed it, especially those who were hurting, overlooked, or unheard. Over time, those memories turn into loyalty that cannot be bought, forced, or manipulated. A soft action becomes a long-term force. A small kindness becomes a reputation that survives the collapse of every toxic structure built around it. The psychology behind this makes the lesson even clearer. Humans are wired to remember people who brought relief during stressful or humiliating experiences. In a relationship where one partner constantly called the shots, the moment the quieter partner offered comfort or clarity left a deeper imprint than any argument. Later, when the relationship fell apart, the memory of compassion remained solid, while the memory of dominance blurred. This becomes the foundation of emotional influence. Power that comes from kindness does not need to be reminded or reinforced because the heart carries it forward without force. People learn from how someone made them feel during their weakest moments. And in those moments, compassion becomes a form of strength stronger than intimidation. In workplaces filled with competition and politics, authority often changes hands quickly. A manager may intimidate others for a short time, but once leadership shifts or situations turn difficult, those who ruled through pressure lose support fast. The colleague who showed genuine understanding, even in small interactions, becomes someone people trust long after official titles change. When crisis arrives, people follow the steady voice, the person who remained human in an environment encouraging coldness. Influence built through compassion transforms into a quiet leadership that keeps growing with each challenge. People remember who treated them with dignity. People forget who tried to scare them into submission. Among friend groups, compassion becomes even more powerful. In circles where gossip, competition, and silent rivalry are common, the individual who offered patience or honesty stands out. Even after the group fractures, everyone remembers that one friend who never played games. The loudest or most popular friend may fade from memory, but the one who helped someone through a personal break or a private struggle becomes a permanent part of the story. Friendships built on compassion survive seasons that popularity never could. When life tests each person later on, they look back and realize the most influential person wasn't the trendsetter or the instigator, but the one who had nothing to gain and still gave something gentle. Family dynamics often expose the difference between performative influence and long-lasting power. In homes where certain relatives dominate through emotional pressure, the environment becomes heavy, but their influence depends entirely on fear or guilt. The quiet relative who offered understanding during conflicts holds a different kind of power. Their voice is remembered even when they say nothing. Their actions echo years after the chaos ends. In adulthood, people seek out the compassionate one for guidance, not the one who insisted on being in charge. Legacy in families belongs to those who healed wounds, not to those who caused them. Compassion leaves fingerprints that last far beyond childhood. In romantic relationships, the impact of compassion becomes even sharper. Power built on manipulation collapses the moment the illusion breaks. But genuine acts of care, listening, patience, small yet meaningful gestures, become impossible to forget. Long after the relationship ends, the compassionate partner remains the benchmark for emotional safety. The controlling partner becomes a cautionary tale. Compassion becomes a lesson. Influence gained by ego dissolves once distance enters the equation. Influence gained through sincerity remains as a standard future partners are measured against. It outlasts heartbreak, time, and even silence. Toxic groups never realize how quickly their influence fades once circumstances shift. When truth surfaces or loyalties change, or the environment evolves, fear-based power evaporates almost instantly. But the person who acted with compassion becomes the one people defend, honor, and remember. Long after the toxic group breaks apart, individuals carry fragments of that kindness into new chapters of their lives. They tell stories about the one who stood up for them. They defend them in rooms the compassionate person never steps into. Influence built through empathy spreads quietly, traveling through people's stories long after the moment itself has passed. When a situation becomes chaotic and people lose their sense of direction, the person who showed compassion earlier becomes the natural leader. They may not want the role. They may not seek attention, but influence built through sincerity rises naturally when people look for someone safe to follow. Even in conflict or uncertainty, compassion creates stability. People align themselves instinctively with the one who stayed grounded. No force is needed, no persuasion. Influence becomes self-sustaining because it is rooted in authenticity rather than performance. Even years later, compassion continues shaping outcomes. Someone who was kind at a turning point becomes a reference point for how others behave when facing similar situations.